Hello and welcome to the Gilbert and Singh podcast with me, George Gilbert, and my fellow partner in crime, Mr.
Singh.
Mr. Singh.
How you doing, George?
You've got to work on that intro, man.
Yeah, I know I do. Mr. George, how's it going? I missed the last podcast. How's it
You
going?
did. Yeah, it was a lot better actually without you. That's what I've noticed anyway.
That's not what the comments said. But we've got an interesting guest today.
Have we?
Yes, we've got Mr. Tharun Thomas, a very close friend. All right, we've actually we got introduced through an energy project that we were trying to work on. I'm actually going to pass the mic on to Tharun. Tharun, how are you?
Good. Good evening, guys. Great to be here. I mean, nice meeting you and liking the vibe of the place. Setting up something like this has always been on my mind too. So I'm picking up a lot of pointers. But interesting, it's a quite interesting story how I met Jaskaran Singh also because I was new to the field of energy management. And you don't know where the leads are going to come from and how do you approach this market and what do you do. And then I get a call from this guy who sounded like he wanted something, and he says, I'd like to meet you for a coffee at JLT, and I'd like to talk about doing something for my villa. And I was like excited, like we got to go. And I went there and I met him, and you have this guy very excited and he's asking you a lot of questions, and somewhere down the line you understand that he's learning more. And I think ever since that, that's something I've always noticed about him, is that he's always in that learning, seeking, adapting mode. And
you know what's crazy? I completely forgot that was my intention of calling him. I wanted to actually learn how they're doing their business so I could copy the business model. That's actually interesting. I completely forgot that one. It's funny because he mentioned in the middle of the chat, he's like, Just, are you starting your own company or what's happening? Because this sounds like you getting information for yourself and not for your villa. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. But yeah, we stayed friends till then. We stayed in touch. And then...
Is there any synergy between the two in terms of moving forward, obviously, with you setting up your business?
Well, yeah, we tried a couple of times. He's been a great help in terms of pointing me in the right direction. Be like, Josh, what you're doing right now, I could help you with this, but it would be in this context. What you're doing is a bit wrong. So it was great help. I mean, that's what it is, right? Yeah. You help each other to a point. Unfortunately, we couldn't match the project evaluations, so we couldn't work officially together.
Yeah.
But we stayed in touch over the years. Met him a couple of times. Yep. Again, funny story. Every time I've met him, I've always had a problem. So a couple of times I met him, I had a broken foot, I had a broken arm.
You're just broken, I think, Jess.
Yeah. It's not pretty. But no, let's go back to Tharun. How's the energy market now?
Good. I mean, just take off from where you said. We don't see anyone as a competition in this business because there's plenty of buildings here in Dubai. Everybody has their own space, and it's just a different way of being at the right place at the right time, I would say. And sometimes when Jaskaran used to get excited about certain projects, I was like, no, don't go there. We've been there. Don't go. It's just going to kill your energy. And I think that's good feedback we have shared. But I think the last 3 years has been amazing for the energy performance contracting, energy management business that we are currently in. A lot of entities are opening up, looking at it. And I mean, even from the company point of view, even during COVID, we had a point where our major investor said that we'd like to exit, but then the major shareholder says that's brilliant. We just want to take this to the next level here in UAE and Riyadh, Oman, Kuwait. So, touch wood, everything's going great. The business has been booming even during the lockdown period. So nothing to complain as.
So is the waste side of things improving now in the UAE? I mean, it's something that we talked about it before. Is we can be super lazy because we have a chute just here outside the door, which we can just drop anything in and not have to worry about it. Is that the sort of thing you do? You go into a particular building like this building and create that model? Yeah,
true. So in a nutshell, what we do is we take over the utility bill of any business owner, and we help them to reduce that consumption through different engineering, automation solutions. And we made it even quite sweetener by even saying that we'll even finance it for you. We come in, we'll invest, we'll take a share of your savings so that you don't even have to worry about who's going to sign the checks. We'll put the money down. And keeping the environmental aspect aside, I think more business owners are seeing it from this makes sense. If I can save 20% on a 10 million dirham bill, I could use that to maybe retain some of my staff and then deciding to let people go. So this is the kind of mentality or motivation that most of the people have.
It sounds that good. It does surprise me that people aren't taking this up faster.
Yes, because let's say we ideally would like to engage with the CEO. But a CEO who operates, who owns 10 building assets is not waiting for you to come in and talk to him. He's got a layer of levels of people that you got to go through. And some of them, because in this region, it's an expatriate mentality. The moment you talk about something which is commitment and he's saying like, I just want to get through the next year and then think about which other company I will move to. I don't want to sign up for something for the next 5 years, you know.
Yeah, okay. And that's the deal, is it? So it's usually 3 to 5 year contracts.
3 to 5 year.
Well, which makes sense for you guys. You know, you've got to know that you're getting it's a sensible investment for you as a company. I think one of the things we wanted to come on to, thank you for the introduction on that, is I think you did a TED Talks recently, which I was doing my research on TED Talks, and it's basically something that began back in 1984, which does conferences globally on technology, entertainment and design. So tell us a little bit about that experience and what the topic was that you spoke about.
Sure. So I think before I jump in right to the TEDx, there's always a reason why, right? You're in a job, energy management, what are you doing talking on stage? So public speaking or communicating on stage has always been my passion. I think it first kicked in when I was in 7th grade, perhaps, where I competed for what they call as a sports captain in school. And me being myself, this obese kid, and you just show up and then your friends are like, have you signed up for the wrong job? I mean, an obese kid, what do you want to do in sports as a sports captain? And a very interesting story, because that still stays in my mind, is I just started going with the flow with what I wanted to say, and with that, suddenly all the votes started shifting and people started following, and you have this click in your mind that if you can really communicate and you can touch someone's heart, it doesn't matter where you come from, how you look, people is going to take you in. And that's always been my driving force. I mean, even in work, in school, I was not supposed to really be an engineering student as per the guidelines of the school curriculum. You're not good in math, so you won't make it in engineering. But the irony is, today I talk to people about numbers. I tell them that we'll invest in this much. This is the saving that you get. I talk CapEx and OpEx, and I've been an Excel engineer for the last 15 years. So, things turn around. But I'd owe a lot to communication skills in particular. And then I reached a point of saturation where I thought, what next? You have this cupboard full of trophies. It's looking really nice. But how do you build a brand as a speaker? How do people invite you like this for a podcast saying, come and we'd like to hear from you? And I realized that TEDx or the TED platform is a global brand that kind of identifies speakers, innovators, change makers, and there's a lot of brand value attached with that name. So if I introduce myself as Tharun Thomas, TEDx speaker, they say, wow, we want to listen to you.
Gives you credibility.
Yeah.
So how did that, I mean, for somebody that is in a similar position as you and thinks, well, that is what I want to do. Sure. How did you go about reaching out to the TED brand?
Cool. So the TED brand in itself is based out of Canada, and they kind of license TEDx events. So that's TED supported events globally. And I hear maybe in UAE itself, there might be not less than 15 independently organized TED events. It's called the TEDx event. And I had a few interns in my office working at that point, and I knew the college called RIT, where they were from, did TEDx events. So I said, guys, I would like to apply for this. How do I get in?
This was through your college interns?
In the office. So, if you got to get something, you got to come down.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So the RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology, they conduct TEDx. They conduct a TEDx conference, and they have an organizing committee. And now they had the opportunity to interview me and make my life difficult. So I had to go through the same process of putting my bio in. What am I planning to speak about?
Okay, so there's an interview process in order to get to that level. Yeah. Do you have to provide previous public speaking that you've done in order for them to review that? Are you
competing with other people here?
So as per the TEDx format, you can only have 4 speakers and 1 pre-recorded session that TED would provide you. So you cannot have like anyone competing. And because any TEDx organizer would like to create kind of a buzz around his event, he would also like to pick people that will attract the crowd. So they started the process of inviting nominations maybe 4 months before the actual event. Wow. 3 months after that, they had an interview call. They did a pre-screening. They said, we'll let you know. A few anxious weeks, and then they say, okay, Tharun, you're selected, but you got to show up for the next 2 months every week, and then we got to do a trial run with you.
Must have now sat well with your missus.
Yeah, because that's where the old is it worth it? Do I need this ego out of my mind? All that kind of stuff. But then I just saw that vision so clearly a year before that, where I even put it on a vision chart saying TEDx. I mean, I'm standing on a TEDx stage, so it was just something that I was just working towards without really going through all the normal ego issues, and I'm a senior professional and all these kind of things. And and then post that you show up on the particular day and you got to speak. Your topic should kind of just should inspire the audience to take action.
So you don't choose the topic.
No. There's a central theme.
Okay. And the theme of your topic was
man and machine. That's it. So you can take it in any direction that you want.
And this is your choice?
No, that's the choice of the organizers.
Okay.
So they said to you, man versus machine is your...
Machine.
Man and machine.
Yeah.
And what did you think to that? I mean, if they said, you got to talk about man and machine, I'd be like...
Man and machine,
what?
yeah. So then that's, again, for me, it took me on an entirely different learning curve where how do I talk about it? Because if it's man versus machine, as you said, what we're used to, it's very easy. You can talk about different dimensions, but then... I sort of said man and machine. What does that mean? Is it complementing, or is it, are you trying to draw parallels? So that's when I saw a movie called The Imitation Game. I don't know if you've heard about it.
No.
Yeah, it's a brilliant movie. And basically it's about a guy called Alec Turing.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. I did watch that one. The one with the coding for the German chips. Yeah. Brilliant. Go on.
And this is after I went to Kinokuniya and bought all those books that said, how do you speak like TED and how do you prepare like TED and what is a TED and all that. And I said, these books are not making any sense to me. I mean, how do I still go about it? Because the format is not a competition. You're there to deliver something for about 20 minutes without any script in front of you, no podium. You got a live recording going on, so you got to just free flow.
So you don't have any teleprompter in front of you.
No.
So you have to memorize.
Yep.
Okay. Now, so I've got bad memories of public speaking. All right. So I obviously.
Well, you personally public speaking?
Well, no. But what happened was, so you know how he's had a really good experience with public speaking when he was younger, around the same age. I was called upon stage. I had signed up for a singing competition. I did not know it was a singing competition, but I did sign up. So
Can you sing?
No, I cannot. So,
I know it's in your name, but...
No, so this is before my voice cracked as well. So I had a little soft little voice as well. So it's good. I was actually going up to the stage to cancel my name. Yeah. And this is in front of the whole school. Yeah. Right? Whole school. So I'm walking by and literally all my friends are just gassing me up. Yeah, Josh, let's go, Josh. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go up there and sing. I'm not going to let my friends down. And I go there. I'm not lying.
What was your choice of song?
It doesn't matter. Right? Not one word came out. It just went, and I stopped. And I think that has just blocked me in terms of, so I can't imagine. So have you got people sitting there watching you as well at this point? So,
the crowd, because they announced the event publicly. So you will have anyone and everyone attending. Ooh, and I think on that particular day, because for the first time, RIT that year decided to kind of uplift their budget. So they booked a hall at the Alliance Française here in Oud Mehta, very nice, and it looked just like the way I had visioned it with a big TEDx behind you and the whole thing. Previous to that, they had just a cardboard in their auditorium, but this year somehow everything just aligned really well. And then then the people just watch you, and then you got to go with the flow. So a lot of preparation. So
let's go back to the beginning. I mean, what's the process of learning? I mean, what do they take you through? They must teach you how to improve public speaking and.
The TEDx.
Yeah.
No, the TEDx just takes it for the people in, like if you just go back to the people who have really done TED Talk, Simon Sinek, The Power of Why, and then there's Tony Robbins. These are the most viewed TED Talks, I would say. So once you're on a TED stage, that's just taken for granted that you know your stuff and you're going to deliver something that's just going to blow the mind. And then...
Yeah, but that's amazing that the fact that they've just given you a random subject. I mean, yes, if you're passionate about something, I mean, if they gave me that subject, I'm not necessarily going to be passionate about it, even though they give me a fantastic stage to speak on.
That's what I said earlier, didn't I? I said a passion is... it's cultivated with the more you research into it, the more you do this, and then it goes click, 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 passion. Yeah. But again, I think George is right. Man, machine.
Yeah. So, I mean, coming back to the Alan Turing story. So, I started going into the whole technological aspect of it and what the machine is. It was called
Code breaker?
The code. What do you call? Anyway, there's a code, and you talk about how the code is complicated and how they went through the process. And I said, man, this is not me. Because I'm a person who likes to inspire through what I'm saying. There should be a message that you take home. It's not all this gibberish what's going on. So what I did is I took that central theme of how Alan Turing used that machine to break the Enigma code. Now it all comes back to me. So the Enigma code, how did he approach it? And then I drew the parallel as to why not approach challenges in life in the same way. So he didn't start from scratch, as in building the whole machine from start. He took a model that somebody had already worked on, and he and his team started working on it all over again. So my concept or mantra of life is also that there's already someone out there who's achieved some sort of result that you're looking out for. Try to find a way to associate with them and then improve along the way. Don't try to start from the beginning because you're just losing years of your time. And then that's the engagement model that I kind of built through the whole talk.
So once you've done one, do you do more?
You can be like a 5-time TED. I mean, I have a friend in India called Geetika Sehgal. She's done 5 TED Talks, and that just kind of makes you even more...
Have you wanted to go back to a TED Talk since...
Yeah, because after I watched the video, I just felt like I could have done this a little bit more better with a little bit more heart in it. Because I might have put myself in a lot of stress that day, so I was feeling a little bit sick just a few minutes before the speech. But then I just still gave it all. It came out very well from the preparation point of view, but you still feel that
could have done better.
Yeah, it's like with us in the podcast. We're very people individual. We're all very overcritical of ourselves during these things.
I was the first one. I heard it back afterwards, and I'm like, George, why don't you stop me?
Yeah,
like, that was horrible. And we actually got decent feedback from it, so it was good. No, but so going back to your thing, where so did you not have any problems where you were standing there going, oh, panic attack, or did you miss a word? Yep. How do you cope with that, where you forget things because you don't have a script anymore?
True. So there are different ways people prepare for speeches, or let's say extempore speeches, or where they have to do a 20-30 minute speech. But I'm a strong believer, and I think that's the way I've been taught by the people who have mentored me so far, that you got to have a script, because they say the average attention span of a human being is 4 seconds. A goldfish has got about 10 minutes. So
I always thought a goldfish was 3 seconds.
Yeah, I thought it was them.
Yeah, I thought it was the way around.
Us. Yeah.
So I think they're losing interest in us, but when they really want to maybe hold their attention, they're able to do it. So if you don't hook your audience in the first few minutes, they can immediately say that this guy is just shooting off and he's not come prepared, and this is just going to go like a never-ending movie. And the worst thing you can do is to stand 20 minutes and murder your audience with stuff which is just going to bore them to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's you don't want to lose that. So
do you have a PowerPoint presentation, something with bullet points, cue cards?
Well, they gave us the option where you could have your slides running on the back, but I don't use the slide with text on it. So it's just images to create that impact. And then I use the text, the slide just to drive my message, and also the flow of the script in my mind. The only time where I go off track is when I want to connect with the audience and I take some humor.
Yeah.
So like I would say, if the speech was like, so how do you really crack the enigma code of your life? Challenges that you have, things that your wife is trying to tell you. So the things that your wife is trying to tell you might be because I just had a conversation with my wife, which I'm just bringing into my speech. And perhaps that line would draw the most number of laughs from the audience and people connect with you.
Also, maybe you were missing at this point because, 4 months of practice, probably missing at this point. Yeah.
So, as on the side note, she's one of my biggest critics. So I don't see there's going to ever be a point where, you can get your family 100% convinced on the way you're doing things. But going back, it's purely a script, and then you keep rehearsing it. And then there comes a point when you drive in the car, you record yourself and you play it back to you while you're doing it, and all these exercises.
That's great. That was my next question. I was going to ask you, did you record yourself on camera or on a phone and be like,
no,
this is what I sound like, this is what I have to improve? Because that's a sales strategy that was pointed out to me earlier. Record yourself. Hear yourself.
True.
See if you're confident.
True. I think at that point in time, my personal image of myself physically was not something that I was really, extremely happy about. But my voice, I'm always in love with my voice. Even when I'm hearing my voice now through the headphones, it is really sounding good.
This does magic to this voice, I think.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, actually, you've got a really nice tone to your voice. And, and people tend to listen to that as well. They'll stick around for longer.
So when I listen to my voice that I've recorded and I say, okay, this is maybe somewhere that I could change. And then over a period of time, it comes in. And then, of course, the adrenaline rush that, for me, it's always that the moment when you announce your stay in your name and it's time to go in and there's this whole spotlight on you, it's your moment. And then, I don't know from where suddenly, a good friend of mine once told me that, you're like Sachin Tendulkar in cricket, because I used to be a part of a group called Toastmasters where I've done a lot of this practice. And he says, you're like Sachin Tendulkar in cricket. You don't speak. You're not very much of an extrovert. You're not, the chatty type of person. But the moment you go on stage, you just...
come alive,
Yeah, and I think that's my...
Well, that's an interesting point that you mentioned, the extrovert thing. This is, I think, if you're an introvert, that's how you're describing yourself. So you think, if George is an introvert, he could come in front of a camera and do this as long as he has the proper education or motivation behind this.
Yeah. And I think some of the greatest leaders, communicators, are people who are self-proclaimed introverts. The ones who have really delivered content which hits you in the heart. I think, I've got a lot of people that I look up to in that ways, and they're not the kind of flashy type, making friends all around. They're very limited. I think sometimes you got to also know how much of content you need to give out. People should feel some kind of an eagerness to listen to you. That okay, this guy's got 5 minutes, and I'm sure this 5 minutes is going to be mind blowing, and that's the image you got to create. And for me, the ripple effect after the TEDx was also amazing. A lot of people were like, oh, this is great. So what does this mean? Are you leaving NG Solutions and are you going to take this up as a separate career? How did they find you? Because in India, you have people like Shah Rukh Khan, Shashi Tharoor, these kind of people who are known to be amazing speakers who have also done TEDx.
Yeah.
If there was actually a whole series on Star World India called the TED Talk in Hindi, which Shah Rukh Khan was hosting. So there's a lot of celebrity feeling that this guy's reached somewhere and all these kind of things. So
to be fair, I think he keeps mentioning my story. I think that's how I got in touch with him as well. I'm like, Tharun, did you leave? Did you leave your work? Are you going to be doing this on a regular basis? Are you going to become a public speaker? Are you going to coach? Which is crazy because literally a month ago, I think you carried out an online event for some of the students and some of the public speaking event. I'm not really sure exactly what the details were. I think, and that is just a great transition from a TED Talk to carrying out your own.
So did it open doors for you?
A lot, yeah. There's a lot of, let's say even in work, a lot of people started saying, wow, this is great. Now we've got a guy who's a TEDx speaker. And then that's how the people started introducing me after a while. But then I think 2 years after that, I just kind of realized that what am I really doing here? Because do I really want to be the rock star with my name on this billboard and they say, come and watch Tharun Thomas? Or do you want to be someone who is a facilitator, someone who is helping other people go through the same journey as you? And now my energy is kind of focused in that direction. I find a lot of pleasure in that. And the current lockdown COVID period was a blessing in disguise because I could finally take off time from work virtually. And we set up an online event which brought together about 40 contestants who wanted to do something like a TEDx, but on an online platform. So I hosted that event, and then we also brought in about seven trainers from India who were now suddenly people who are already living the life where they would travel on first class, business class airplanes, go to expensive hotels, have this room filled with attendees, sitting at home because there's no events any longer. And they were also in a state of this, change. So I kind of said, let's connect both people who are already there, who want to kind of evolve to the online platform, and people who are speakers who now have the chance, just like anyone, to build their brand as a speaker. And it was very well received. We had about 600 registrations, another 300 people participating, a few of them signing up for the courses of the the trainers. So great ecosystem, and then you just build on that.
So how did you go about setting that up? Because that's something that did you do it out of the blue and think, I'm just going to try and get all these people to register?
Well, during that time, a friend of mine who runs a very successful event management company here in UAE called Pure Magic Events, they were going through a stage of evolution because the event suddenly industry stopped from March. Completely. And he was like, what next? So he said, so they decided to take kind of a step towards the virtual event platform, setting up webinars for companies, and they wanted to demonstrate that they can give that same viewer engagement that you would get on a live event. So I said, this is brilliant, man. Let me do something. Let me take care of all the logistics of bringing the people here. You just host the event on your platform for me.
So you were the ones who got in touch with all of the
with the trainers and mind blowing. I mean, people have just follow on Instagram, on LinkedIn. I mean, I send them a mail saying this is my agenda, and they say, "Wow, let's talk about it."
I think this is where the TED thing becomes a credibility thing as well, where you've got Tharun Thomas, TEDx speaker,
not the guy trying to make a buck on the side,
right? So I think that becomes a huge huge thing as well.
Yeah,
it's great.
And then. And then but then the learning curve started on the back end of stuff. When you really want to grow yourself, you reach a point where you're good at speaking. Well, then what next is the digital marketing side of things.
Yep.
Your Facebook ads and your lead generation pages and your Canva app and all these kind of things which you need to learn all over again. So I'm spending more time now focusing on that side of things. Is very interesting. I mean, the stuff that happens on the back end is sometimes more interesting than the final product.
So when you say on the social media side, you're saying doing commercials and things like that?
How do you attract the audience to come and listen?
So you're learning on how to
anyone.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of something we're going to get into the social media game. We're all familiar with it, but in terms of promoting the podcast, that's something that we're going to be pushing heavily.
Because again, like you said, social media is the easiest way to get access to the right people.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're going to create content, and if you're not going to create content but advertise it for the right people, it's gonna get lost in
true. And the funnel management, I mean, and I think this is the tipping point. There was always a talk of what they call as nomadic motivators. It's like someone who just travels.
Yeah.
And then you have an entire setup like this, and then he just comes and he does his stuff, and the world hears and they say, wow.
I think we should do that. Get a van, put the equipment there, and just drive down all over Dubai and just be like, podcast.
Gilbert and Singh on the road.
I mean, just to give you a little perspective, Tony Robbins, he conducts this series of events called Unleash the Power Within and Your Date with Destiny. And these used to be like 3-day events where people used to fly off to Fiji Island and spend $5,000 for 3 days. But now they've realized that nobody's going to come ever in the next few months, at least, into a packed convention center. So he set up an entire studio.
Yeah.
And he reached out to 26,000 people who paid not that much, but close to that kind of an amount to attend a 2-day seminar. And now Tony Robbins doesn't have to even leave maybe his bedroom. He's there doing.
Well, nowadays it can be done. I mean, it's not It's not the most expensive setup.
An online set, not
event, like doing something like this. Eventually, as we build a following, the plan is to do these live and do them online and stream them on Facebook, Instagram, and what have you. I mean, Tony Robbins has got hundreds of thousands, he's got millions of followers, so it's very different for him. But it can be done now. I mean, you don't need a BBC studio.
I think this is what we were discussing as well. We said COVID, as bad as the actual pandemic has been, it has been great for people in terms of finding themselves and what they actually want to do instead of just a 9 to 5.
Exactly.
Which is what I think you were pointing out in your chat as well. Like, this is what we want to focus on: help each other.
Yeah.
And this is where the online event thing comes in.
Correct.
We could get in touch with someone you have worked with.
Yep.
Because they have been really good. They've set up an event, and we could do an online event ourselves. And that's the beauty of the podcast.
Yeah. Because I'm also a believer, and I don't know how many of the viewers or listeners will agree with this. I believe that if you have, just by having a passion alone doesn't mean that it's what you need to commit your entire life to. If you have a passion and people are ready to pay for it, then you can transition to it. And that also has to be over a period of time. It just cannot happen all of a sudden. Because I've tried that also, where all of a sudden I wanted to be this guy who wanted to change the world. But then, yes, there was a little bit of a money incentive behind it. And people could really see through it. They said, Tharun, this is not the brand or guy we connect you with. There's something wrong here. And it took me a lot of while to realize that and, trying to say, okay, this is maybe who I am. So, yeah.
It's like with anything, you've got to be patient. You've really got to push. It's like with any business. If you're not patient, it's going to fail straight away. And you're going to give up because you're going to lose the passion and drive for it. It's the same. I know we keep coming back to the podcast, but it's the same for this.
Yeah.
This is only episode 4. And really, before we start getting a following, we need to be maybe up at episode 400. Before you start to get a decent sort of following, and then find a niche or find a target audience that suits you and I.
Yeah, because that's the thing. You're right. But what happens is people generally come on and say, I want to start a podcast and I want to be Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Right? And I want it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you're right. It doesn't work like this. You've got to take baby steps.
Well, Joe Rogan's probably been going since 2010.
True.
He's been doing it for the last 10 years.
Exactly.
And he's got 8 million subscribers now and just signed a $100 million deal with Spotify. So, it can happen. But these guys have invested years and years and years into these things.
Well, that's literally what it is. It's like I said, when I met you first, I didn't know anything about, this was 8 years, 7 years ago? 7 years ago?
6 years, yeah.
And there was no talk about doing this, but this is a 5-year journey that you've gone through and said this is exactly what it is. You have to take small steps first, expect nothing back in return, and then go, okay, you know what? I just want to help you. I just want to talk to you and see how this goes.
Correct.
And I think that's one of the great things. I think we've had arguments about this as well. It's because so one good thing about Tharun is he sees potential in you. So he sees, you have so much potential, but you're not pushing it. And he gets annoyed when you don't use it. I think that's one of the arguments we've had before as well. You're like, Josh, you need to push. But also what you need to do is step back sometimes, just relax and not expect results like this. And I think, I didn't actually...
And also not... Yeah, and not dabble in many things. I think there's a lot of distraction. Again, coming back to the same point, there's so many distraction now that even when you communicate, it has to be very clear. So if I have a message, even online, I've stopped posting anything to do with my family pictures and, cutting cakes or going on a holiday, because the moment I come up with a post that talks about me on stage, people say, oh, we saw that where you were speaking last time. Or if on LinkedIn, energy management, personal development. These are the only subjects that I talk about, and that continues to build the brand. Otherwise, you're confusing your audience.
But don't you think, as you're building your brand, don't you think people want to see a bit more normal side to the thing? It's not just the brand, right? You want to see that this person's a human. So you want to see the human touch behind this as well.
Well, that would be at a point where it doesn't matter anymore. When you're the Dwayne Rock Johnson,
Okay.
He's the most followed Instagram celebrity, but he is the highest paid influencer on Instagram. So he can choose to post.
Could do what he wants.
Is he? I thought Kim Kardashian was the highest paid.
No, it's Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
Wow.
Yeah. And
wow.
I mean, and sometimes when you look at the trends that happens, you can kind of anticipate that it's going to happen. So when let's say, take the subject of Dwayne the Rock Johnson. When I used to follow him, he was building that audience very slowly, and then a point came where he suddenly floated this tequila called Teremana.
Yeah, I've seen it. Actually. I quite fancy giving it a go.
And then now it's all dynamic. So the people who know the game, they really played well. There's someone else that I very actively follow, and I've attended a course from him. His name is Jay Shetty.
Oh, I like Jay Shetty.
Yeah, Jay Shetty.
Okay, yes, I've seen Jay.
I mean, Jay Shetty started, he was one of the first guys that I followed, and I remember telling my wife, if you got to bring a speaker in Dubai, you got to catch Jay Shetty now, because in the next 2 years, this guy is going to grow to a point where it's difficult going to get him, because my wife was looking out to bring in speakers into Dubai from her business. And today he's the most followed celebrity on Facebook.
Brilliant. So you know what you should do? Go up to your wife and say the same thing. Like Gilbert and Seg podcast. Grab them now.
Yeah.
Or otherwise, in 2 years' time.
True. Right. No, the vibe I'm feeling is already there.
So. I like your optimism anyway, Jess. That's good. That's positive.
That's the Sikh part in me, right? Keep going.
One of the things we like to do, is ask, is there anything else in particular that we haven't covered that you would like to mention or to discuss with the two of us.
From the topics that
So is there something we haven't touched on? If there's anything we've missed that you would like to add and throw into the mix?
Well, what I wanted, my own set of questions, I guess, to you guys, because what's the end goal? Where do you see Gilbert and Singh 3 years from now with the podcast?
Do you want to answer that, or do you want me to go for it?
No, go on first.
For me, to be honest, I don't think there is a goal at the moment.
Okay.
We're just starting out. We're dipping our toe in the water. What I like about it is the fact that I think we click.
Yeah.
We have that relationship. We get to meet new and interesting people that come on the podcast. We then can add value to not only ourselves but also the people that are listening to it. And then I don't know. I mean, I don't really want to feel like I want to put any pressure on either of us to achieve something. But at the same time, I also am a believer that you need to set goals and realistic goals of where you plan on getting. And I think because it's so in its infancy, we haven't really got that plan and that target. But we, at the moment, we're bringing people in that we both know that we know could add value, and I think we've probably got another 25-30 people lined up. It's something we want to start doing digitally, so start doing things over Skype or Zoom or whatever, so we can touch on people that aren't necessarily here. And if we go into a second wave of the pandemic, it's going to make scenarios like this very, very difficult. So that's something that we're going to have to do. So
no, I think he's. So we've been discussing this for about 8 months, I think, before we actually decided on let's do this. I think it's always been a thing for me, right? Be like, get people on board. So when you listen to podcasts, when you listen to interviews, who do you listen to generally? You would listen to the guy who runs Amazon. You've got all the top people, right? So, but people forget SMEs. And you've got SMEs, which are the backbone of any economy. You want to focus on these people, the people that run the economy. That's one. Second, is to meet. See, that's the thing. Is to meet people like you who have a passion, and we want to make sure that passion is then delivered to other people as well. Cool. So they learn, right? So they learn. For example, I've learned how you have your journey situation. I think that was brilliant. I think if I was listening, I would want to listen more. I would want to know more about how. I think that was the main goal. I think when we joined about this, we said, you know what, we're going to join. We're going to do this. We're going to be funny, but what we're going to do is forget where this ends up in 3 years. Our aim is to make sure as many people benefit from our community that we're going to be creating here.
Also, I think it's important to enjoy it. Enjoy the process. And and get excited where it could potentially go. I think that's certainly my opinion on it.
No, I mean, I would say from the medium of communication or the voice, what you guys are sharing, for sure there's someone out there who's going to listen to our conversation or the many conversations that are happening and say, what, this is me, because there was again a day where I realized that this is what my end goal is all about. I mean, I was here in Dubai and we had a bunch of friends in Kuwait who I was training online, same thing, communication skills, developing their personality and so on, that kind of stuff. And then I had the opportunity to fly down to Kuwait. And I couldn't go on the first flight because we had work. So post 7, I picked up the last flight around 11 o'clock, reached there about 1 o'clock. And I had about 4 or 5 people waiting for me in the hotel. And I'm like, wow, what's happening here?
At 1 a.m.?
Yeah, waiting 1 a.m. So they were here because they were supposed to receive me, but they could have met me the next day. But they waited at 1 a.m., leaving their family on a weekend. And there was this one guy, his name is Don. He came and gave me a hug and he says, Tharun, I'm finally happy that you're here in person. You don't know how much you've changed my life. I was like, what did I say? So some things that we've just talked about casually creates a very strong impact someone somewhere.
So I'm going to go back into the conversation we had earlier. 2 words that you used: ripple effect.
Yeah,
that's what it is. That's exactly what we wanted to do this with, right? It's just so that people. There's so many talented people out there, so many, and what we want to do is give these people a platform.
True.
And then create a community where, at the end of the day, someone who listens to this podcast knows you've done this, can get in touch with you through us or on your social platform, And I think we've done a job there. I think that's what, if one person has come up to you and said, listen, I want help, and it was brilliant, I think it was a successful podcast. Again, like you said, 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line, if you monetize this, okay, cool. But that's not the main aim of the thing, right?
True.
I wouldn't complain if we got a Joe Rogan deal, but
I don't think so. Not yet. Certainly not yet. That's probably maybe 10 years.
Yeah, no, but I can go just Rogan podcast alone.
I think the key is content. You know, we've just got to keep pumping the content out.
Yep.
We've said at the start we want to try and do 3 a week. We're nearly there. We're close enough at 3 a week.
Yeah.
We're about in the position now to start publishing them. That's sort of a strategy we're going to come up with this weekend, and start getting them out there.
True.
And then hopefully we can obtain listeners. And I think what's going to be interesting as well is getting the feedback. Feedback is going to be important. So if anybody has any feedback, is give that feedback, whether it's positive or negative, because sometimes the negative is a good thing, because we can take that on board and then improve what we're giving out to people.
Well, to be fair, we can always ask a TEDx speaker how it went. Do you know one?
No.
Okay.
I do now.
No, but Tharun, so what next? What's the next, quickly, what's the next thing for you? What is it? What's in your funnel?
Yeah, so basically the next step is creating a digital course, which is for students who are pre-teens, I would say. So going back to where I started from, the 7th grader who suddenly realized that, wow.
I wish I had that.
And then because I found many right people at the right time, I've, let's say, fortunate to be here. But what I want to set up now as a platform is to identify people children or pre-teens like that, and provide them a way of saying that, you know what, in a week's time, if you do what I tell you, you'll be able to go up on a stage and then speak. But then from there, if you want to take it to the TEDx, then that's all on you.
Yeah.
You're giving them the tools to actually work their way through the thing, which is amazing.
Yeah, because sometimes you're amazed. You have people in very high positions in corporates, people who are leaders, but then the way they communicate is quite challenging. And now the transition to the online, where you have webinars and you've got online meetings, you don't even know where you have people listening to you or not. I mean, my son, who is only 7 years old, and he's just had 2 months of online education. He comes to me the other day while I was having my meeting, and he says, "Dad, I want you to play with me." And I'm telling him, "No, we can't, because you can hear that I'm speaking." He says, "If all you're saying is yes, sure, it will be done, no problem. Why don't we just create an app?"
Yeah.
Who's going to know if you're listening to the guy or not? So this is the kind of audience who's lined up for the next few years. So you got to really step up your game if you want people to listen. But then I also see that in the coming years, there's going to be these new prophets, people like yourself, who are going to share vision, talk about stuff, and people are going to say, "Man, my life is so disrupted now. There's so much of stress. There's a lot of issues going on. I'm not reaching anywhere. I need some kind of that talk that picks me up." And there's going to be a room for that also in the coming days. Otherwise, I think we have achieved everything that the human race can possibly do.
Ooh, that's a big claim though, because I think this is what we were talking. This is how we started off initially, right? Where we said it's the best time for humans, and also pretty much the worst time for humans, because. It's just that's why you were going to say something, George. I thought I interrupted.
No, I was going to say the online route, I think, is definitely the best route to go down. Well, I personally bought a videography course, which I paid for online, and the guys that create that course are in the US.
Yeah.
And I think they say it's set to be worth billions of dollars, that particular industry, and everyone's going to be going down that route. Universities now, I think that's moving more to being online than rather going to actual university, because you've got all the costs associated with doing that. So no, I think you're heading in the right direction.
But then let's say a little bit longer plan is for me to help any individual who's got some kind of an expertise to convert that knowledge into a digital asset, where he could create that content, learn the basic tools to set up a system that does this auto tune, so that even when he crosses the age of 60, 65, and he's no longer employed by a typical corporate, he's still got something that's ticking every day, because that's his knowledge that he's kept in a vault. I mean, And I think from my dad's experience, who had been an expatriate here for 40 years, I think that's something I really need to look forward to, because there's going to be a point in time where nobody needs me to talk about energy management, but then they would like me to talk about public speaking or sales communication skills or tendering, the skills that we acquired. So that's my final last ship when we reach that point.
Good. Well, we wish you all the best with that, and you've just got to push forward and get there. But no, I've enjoyed today's podcast. It's been great. Thank you.
As well.
But I'm tempted to use the mic to sing a song. It's brilliant. I mean,
I think he sounds better than me.
Yeah, I mean that could be our ending jingle as well. We could have that.
Tharun singing for us.
Yeah.
Straight out.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could give it a shout.
Well,
I mean, if it's bad, we could always just
edit it out.
Yeah, just cut that straight out.
All right.
No, I did quite enjoy the podcast. Thank you so much. I am so happy that you were the first person I got in touch with. As soon as I started thinking about podcast, I'm like, Tharun, that's the guy.
Thank you.
Right, no, but thank you so much. Enjoyed that one.
But I think I'll close with a.
You can.
With a hum.
If you want to really do that, please go ahead.
I'll always be thinking about this when I go back home. That how would it have sounded?
Please.
Okay, before you hum, hold on. So, guys, if you want to listen to us again, please subscribe to the podcast. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes. We're across all the platforms. So, please hit the subscribe button, and we'd love you to join on our next podcast. But Tharun, thank you very much. Go ahead.
हर घड़ी बदल रही है रूप जिंदगी, छाँव है कभी कभी है धूप जिंदगी, हर पल यहाँ जी भर जियो, जो है समा कल हो ना हो. All right, I think Jaskaran, you could do the translation for that.
I'm just gonna say that was actually really good. Give me a bit of shivers that one. I'm not gonna translate that now, but it just meant shortest form possible. Live your life to the fullest, because you don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. I'm gonna go into a bit of detail here, but don't fret over small things. All right, just live. That's why it's live.
Very good.
But I think we're going to use that as a jingle. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you guys.